There are 14 exercises you'll ever need to get stronger in arm wrestling. In this video, I will show you every single one of these exercises. I will explain how to execute them properly, and I will also share some important tips that you can apply to your training to speed up your progress. More than that, I will also show you some variations that you can do if you don't have any special equipment or if you train at home. Let's get straight into it, and the first vector we are going to look at is back pressure. When it comes to back pressure, you have two main muscles that need to be trained: your brachioradialis and your biceps. For the brachioradialis, you can do back pressure hammer curls on the table. Just set the pulley to a low position and do your regular hammer curls. Make sure the angle between your forearm and the rope is 90 degrees before you start lifting the weight. As an alternative, if you don't have a table, you can do the exact same exercise at the power rack. Set up the power rack exactly as shown in the video. This is a really great variation that you can do in any commercial gym. Make sure the forearm is parallel to the floor and your arm is at a 90-degree angle. For the biceps, you'll do the exact same exercises, but now you will have to use a supinated grip. For the table variation, take a normal gym handle and perform the regular bicep curls. The other option is to do it at the power rack. Here you have two choices. You can do it with a belt and a loading pin, or you can do the classic dumbbell bicep curls. Both variations are great, just choose whatever feels more natural to you. Moving on to side pressure. There are three side pressure elements you will have to cover: side pressure pec to peg, internal rotation, and also some down pressure to be able to finish your opponent. For the peg to peg exercise, you can take whatever grip and handle you want, but probably the variation where you just grab the belt and pull the weight sideways is the hardest one. Of course, this exercise is done a lot by Todd Hutchings, who also made it extremely popular. Focus on maintaining the pronator throughout the entire movement. If your pronator opens up even a little bit, the lift is failed. For the down pressure, you can do some down pressure at the pulley. Make sure the weight comes from above. Here, it is very important to work with a handle that will simulate the hands of your opponents. Don't take handles that are too thick, because the risk of injury is very high. I injure my side pressure ligament with this exercise, so make sure you warm up properly and you do it clean and controlled. And the last side pressure exercise is internal rotation at the pulley. Set the pulley low and start with a straight wrist. Turn your shoulder in and try to simulate your table movement as accurately as possible. If you want to make the exercise even harder, you can do it with a wrist wrench. If you don't have a table, just take a normal adjustable gym bench and set it up at roughly the same height as an arm wrestling table. Take a handle that rotates and perform the exercises mentioned a moment ago. For the peg to peg exercise, it is very hard to do it on the normal gym bench because your elbow will be in the air and you will be very unstable. So another great method that you can use is to train your side pressure on the table. You will need someone who is stronger than you. Get to the winning side and apply maximum pressure to the side between 3 and 5 seconds. Because the other guy is stronger than you, it won't be a problem for him to hold you. The next category is probably the most important one, and that is your hand. Here you have two main areas that need to be trained: your wrist and your fingers. For almost every arm wrestling technique, your hand will be your biggest weapon. Without strap, your wrist and fingers are equally important. In the strap, your fingers are not that important anymore and your wrist will do the cupping motion. For the wrist, you can do dumbbell wrist curls at a 45-degree angle. This is by far my favorite wrist exercise because you can go very heavy and you will not experience any weird pains on your wrist tendons. And if you look around, many elite arm wrestlers do this exercise on a regular basis. If the dumbbells are not thick enough for your hands, you can use fat grips to target your wrist more effectively. For the fingers, you can do rolling thunder lifts from the floor. You can either start with your wrist cupped in, which will target both your wrist and your fingers, or you can start with a straight wrist, which will target mainly your fingers. You could also do this exercise at the pulley. Just start with a straight wrist and pull the weight down. If you don't have a rolling thunder, you can take a regular gym handle that rotates, put a fat grip on it, and you will have exactly the same effect as a rolling thunder. If you also don't have a fat grip, you can take a piece of an old towel, wrap it around the handle a few times, and there you have your rolling thunder. Pro tip here, you have to be creative when it comes to training. because oftentimes you will have to improvise a lot if you don't have the necessary equipment. As a bonus, if you want an exercise that will target both your wrist and your fingers at the same time, you can do some wrist range work at the pulley. But don't expect to lift very big weights, because the wrist range will aggressively attack your wrist and fingers more than any other handle. Let's move on to pronation. You have to understand, your pronation never works alone. It always works together with either your back pressure or with your side pressure. For the back pressure motion, you can do the pronated back pressure lift. Grab the belt as shown in the video and start with a straight wrist. Same as the back pressure lifts, make sure you have a 90-degree angle between the rope and your forearm before you start lifting the weight. The mistake most people make is not maintaining the pronator. If your pronator gives up even a little bit, the lift is failed. As an alternative, you can do this exercise from the floor, or you can do it at the power rack, where you will have your elbow fixed. I like the table variation the most because it simulates the position I am in during a real arm wrestling match. But if you don't have a table and a pulley, the other two variations work extremely well. For the side pressure motion, you can do the exercise mentioned a moment ago, the pronated side pressure. And by that, you can see why it is such a great exercise. You will train two main arm wrestling areas in one move. To strengthen your pronator, you really have to make sure your pronator is engaged during the entire movement. Most of the time, the pronator will be the limiting factor and not the side pressure. That's why you see most arm wrestlers losing their pronator but still managing to pull the weight sideways. These are actually the only two pronation exercises that you will need to cover all the directions in which your pronation can be engaged. But because you want to be as prepared as possible, you can also do some isolated pronation work. The only exercise that isolates your pronation completely from all the other muscle groups is pronation with your forearm fixed on the table. Like in every other pronation exercise, you can grab the belt in three different ways: very high, over your thumb, and over your forearm. This is a great exercise and I will recommend you to do it no matter what style you use on the table. I also did a video where I ranked the best and worst pronation exercises, so if you haven't seen it, the link is in the video description. The next key component for every arm wrestling style is your back. It is not enough to have strong arms. You have to connect your arm strength with your whole body. And that's exactly what the back does. When you train your back, you'll also involve your elbow flexors, which are your brachioradialis and your biceps. By far the most important back exercise is pull-ups. Pull-ups can be considered a compound move for the sport of arm wrestling, because you will train your back, brachioradialis, wrist and fingers all at the same time. Take a neutral grip to simulate the position you are in on the table. I also like to use this handle, which will ensure that my elbows will stay inside my body when I do my pull-ups. Also, the stress on the shoulders is much less when you do it like this. I will also recommend you to do partial pull-ups, because this is the angle that you will need on the table. Of course, you can do some full range of motion pull-ups to build some general strength or for recovery. The second back exercise is dumbbell back rows. This again is an exercise that can be considered a compound move for the sport of arm wrestling. It is very important to do the reps as clean as possible and to really focus on activating your back, because it is extremely easy to cheat yourself. Also, if you want to target your wrist and fingers even more, you can use fat grips. And the last key area on the list is the riser. For the rising, you can do rising hammer curls at the table. The belt has to go down exactly over your knuckles. Start with a straight wrist and make sure your riser is completely engaged before you start lifting the weight. Also, when you get to the heavy weights, pull the weight up slowly and controlled. This will ensure that your riser won't give up, because oftentimes if you pull the weight up explosively, the riser has a much higher chance to drop. As an alternative, you can do this exercise while sitting down or at the power rack. The exact same rules mentioned a moment ago need to be followed. Start with your forearm parallel to the floor and your arm at a 90-degree angle. If your riser drops, you'll most likely still lift the weight, because your back pressure is usually stronger than your riser. But I wouldn't recommend you to do that, because you want to train your riser and not your back pressure. These were the only 14 exercises you'll ever need to get stronger at arm wrestling. Remember, we use gym training only to improve our performance on the table. So make sure you apply all your strengths properly on the table by practicing your move thousands of times. If you have a different opinion, write it down in the comment section below. Also, if my videos are helping your arm wrestling game grow, consider supporting the channel. Link is down below. Keep your eyes on this channel, great stuff is coming.